Well, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute after the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Same.
Yeah, so let's begin our journey with COVID. I always begin with this question. 6 years ago, it changed the world. How did you get
Yeah.
through it, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
Man, great question. Um, so I think COVID changed things for CPA firm in a couple of different ways. Before COVID, we were a young firm, so we didn't really understand essential versus non-essential businesses. And looking through that lens of who's permitted to be open and under what conditions, we started to group clients in CRMs differently. We started to engage with them differently. Obviously, with relief programs and things like this, um, we tried to adopt one to many technology, kind of like a town hall style information gather. But it was the first time in my professional career where you could actually tell somebody, you know what, I don't know the answer yet. It's a brand new law. Give me space. And people believed you.
Yeah.
Not saying they didn't before, but because stuff was coming at us so swiftly. And to illustrate this point, I had something in my inbox on, I want to say it was like March 16th, which was either Senate or House had passed something. The other congressional body had not, but I've got clients in the inbox saying, so what does this law mean? And I'm thinking back to like that old video of the piece of paper, how a bill becomes a law. I'm like, this means nothing until the other side does something about it.
Yeah.
But it showed kind of on steroids the information era we're in is instant now information. But the ink hadn't dried on the final legislation for us to read it, let alone begin to interpret it. So getting people kind of vested with this on-demand info and how to interpret it was life changing for us. And I think because we embraced it, set us up to behave a little bit differently than others.
So there's a lot that's going on. You have an eclectic, interesting mix of things that you do on a daily basis. And if you had to synthesize that for a 13-year-old brain at career day in a school, how would you explain what you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, so the elevator speech on this is I have a law firm, I have a CPA firm, we carry an insurance license to help people with things that go on. But the essence is we represent small businesses and small business owners. We help them with the things that are part of their day to day right up until they end up needing a specialist. And in some instances, we can delegate those specialties to us, like tax planning and advisory work to the CPA firm, or maybe contracts for mergers and acquisitions or buys and sells. Or we delegate it and help people find those third parties that maybe are outside of our spheres of influence to help them achieve their objectives. Because if client wins, we win. That's the end result.
So talk to me a little bit about what you wanted to be when you were 12 or 13 years old. What was your dream job?
Yeah, probably at 12 or 13, I was a professional soccer player or something like that in my mind. I was good enough that I had strong ambitions, but I'm not sure I really understood what it meant to be a professional athlete. Probably somewhere in there, there was, firefighter, astronaut, all those cool things that kids wanted to do. Um, but I think the reality is I observed and admired mom and dad. They were both entrepreneurs. They both had small businesses. They both taught at the local university. And I kind of watched what it meant to have this flexible lifestyle and be present for those different family events or be able to flex to say, hey, I'm taking Friday off, but I'm going to work Saturday because I want to do something on Friday. So somewhere in there, I think I observed it. I just, it's this, naive kid thing. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a, and then over the years, I started to kind of watch what this other thing was and started to naturally gravitate towards this entrepreneurship, small business owner lane.
So, what did you see growing up? There's all these foundational seeds. By the time we're three, we have all of these levels of personality set. What did you see? What was taught to you? What did you subconsciously or consciously absorb that allowed you to get in to this attorney, this entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, so the this I'm gonna break this down. There's mom, there's dad, and then my brother Mike that plays a role in this. So mom was an educator first. By the time I can really remember her professional career, she had entered into mental health and counseling. So as a young man, she had happy face charts that we probably now know as emojis, right? I tease about it and say mom was into emojis before they even had a title. But there's all this psychology that kind of came with just her education path, her representing clients, me just seeing things. Drove me nuts as a kid to, figure out what color am I. But all of these tools I absorbed and we use to represent clients because where there is money or financial decisions, there is also emotion every single time. Then you got dad's element here where he owned and operated auto repair business, taught at the local university, automotive technology, so he's kind of leader in the industry. But he had this way of everybody in the community knew him, everybody liked him, nobody had a negative thing to say. So these networking elements I started to absorb and see. Unfortunately, he passed early, so this is kind of where my brother steps in, where I got to watch a business succession plan. My brother Mike was working with dad when dad passed and kind of had to reinvent what his version of that same business was, all while, I'm a grade schooler into high school, and then dad passed when I was in my early college years. But all through this, I'm seeing business themes. I'm watching how you navigate customer service, or sometimes you get problem clients that you have to kind of get them to think that the idea is their idea to get them to the right place sometimes. It's like people don't always instinctively know what to do, and you got to help them get there. So just by virtue of being present, I had these three people that kind of mentored whatever that result was. And where this really came to light was when I was in my accounting education. We kept skipping chapters in a book. I went to the professor. I'm like, man, why are we skipping this? This is good stuff. And he's like, oh, that's really all legal. That's what the attorneys do. And I wasn't quite as intentional as the business model is now. But at the time, I said, well, that's dumb. Why do you need two people to do this? It's in the same book, it's the same topics. Well, fast forward, here we are. That's my role for folks to help take kind of that telephone game away, to help bridge these gaps and help people achieve using all of these different observation factors over the years. I'm sure there's tons of subconscious, but since it's subconscious, it just happens. And I don't know how to verbalize that in this, but
Yeah.
it's part of the journey.
So, who's been your hero? Who's been an inspirational force that's allowed you to navigate and to evolve to where you're at today in your career?
Family first. Obviously, my mom, my brother, my dad played different roles. I've always looked at these things kind of in seasonality, if you will, and think of it like a good recipe. There's different ingredients that you borrow from a lot of different places. So to truly step back and give credit to one is unfair because if you don't have the flour and the sugar, it doesn't taste right. Sometimes you gotta add a little salt in there to neutralize the sweetener, right? So I look family first, and then over the years, there have been some influential coworkers or mentors, supervisors in a couple of different environments that have embraced kind of my personality. I didn't always fit a paradigm, especially as a JD CPA. There are moments where interning in tax and accounting as a lawyer, and it's like, well, what's my career path? I'm like, well, we don't really have one for lawyers in CPA land. So having folks like that be willing to kind of look outside the box and maybe show you the options that aren't really in the company's best interest to say, hey, here's two or three other options maybe outside the bubble because you have a unique skill set are important to take a look at. So another factor that's huge in this are coaches. I had some really amazing coaches as a young man that were inclined to win first, but not at the sacrifice of character, determination, and all of the things that you want as a contributing member of society. I refer to them as servant leaders because they looked at the greater good over the wins and loss sheet. You pull all of these different people together, and especially the role I play today as a coach for business owners, but also as a coach in soccer for young men and women. that's my way of giving back and trying to emulate these people that I saw to be good charactered men and women in my life that instilled disciplines to me that I probably still don't fully understand, but I'm internally grateful for.
So, is there anybody in the realm of business or coaching that you admire that you would love to talk to, have a lunch with, pick their brain? Anybody on the planet? Who would that be?
Anybody on the planet. You know, I think back, and this one maybe is a little bit of a cop-out type deal, but Winston Churchill's personality, and I realize he's long gone at this point, but he has some quotes that kind of sustain through World War II. And one, I'll window dress for the audience, but when you're going through S, keep going is the sentiment. And in the way I've kind of spun this and talked to people about it, because what's the alternative? To stand knee deep in it? And there's some real sincere wisdom in there, but it's simple. But he had to live World War II differently because it was literally in his backyard. And it'd be interesting to watch and see and pick his brain about how were you able to keep people motivated in such a bleak time and pull all these different resources together without going bananas somewhere in there.
Yeah. Well, especially with what's going on now, there's so many levels of leadership that I kind of dream about and look at and think about how how they would react to what's going on right now, you know? And Churchill's definitely on top of that list.
It's an interesting observation you have, and the levels of leadership, that you're talking about. I'm assuming you're kind of referring to it takes a specific type of leader to succeed in war, as opposed
Yes.
to someone to run a Fortune 500 company, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation because the skill sets are different, and you have to have the right people in the right seats.
Well, and we're also entering this realm, and you know very well with law, where how do we address AI? It's like in schools with kids. How do kids use AI in ways where they're not plagiarizing and cheating, but it enhances their existing knowledge base? Because a lot of people are using this as guides to live their lives, and it's not a sentient judgment realm that you want to fall into a trap with. It's just going to be dangerous, and that's the fear. It's the Arthur C. Clarke 2001 Space Odyssey fear,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, it's interesting you bring it up. I assume you're familiar, you use it and implement it in your day-to-day life too,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah,
The way I have always tried to describe it is it is a tool. It cannot stand on its own for independent logic and reasoning. And I actually had this conversation with an eighth grader. The assistant coach Maria and I worked together, and we were talking about something. I turned to her and I said, "Hey, did you use Copilot for that?" And of course, the kids lose their mind and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you use AI? We're not supposed to use AI." And I was like, "I use it every day. Here's the difference. I know the result I want to get, and I'm proofing everything that it does to get to the result. Whereas I think what you're teasing about is you're not applying intelligent thought and reason. You're just using it to hit a checkbox and move on. And you could just kind of watch all of their face like, well, huh? What? What are you talking
uh-huh,
about? And one young man said, "Oh, no, 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 no. I do this all the time. I do the work first, but then I use AI to check my work." And I was like, that's exactly what I'm getting at.
yeah,
And his wisdom inside of that is it can become a tool to enhance your knowledge because if you're uncertain, what do you do? And I'm sure you've turned to it a few times and it's spit out results and you're like, are you sure? And then
yeah,
it changes its answer, right?
uh-huh, yeah, yeah.
Has
Have
it
there
has it changed the way you interact with day to day?
Not really. I mean, I use it as an enhancer, like with
Okay.
podcasting, there's SEO terms and
Hmm.
ways that can be modified to garner more, or if I need to rewrite something that uses a little bit more flowery stuff. I love messing around with the image thing, coming up with weird ideas and seeing what it can do. That's fun to me. And I'm a kid of the 80s, so I'm between the rotary dial and this weird like Jetsons realm that we finally entered. And it's like I can sit here and swim through this with perspective But
Yeah,
a lot of these kids right now, this is their reality. There's no way. It's like with COVID. They don't remember an era where we had decades of walking around without masks and fears of weird things like 9/11 and viruses flying through the air. It's like it's all about
right,
perspective, you know?
right.
So,
Yeah, it's I'm excited as to where it's going to take us,
yeah.
but I'm also cautious about the lack of skill sets that we're going to develop because of it.
Uh-huh.
Because if you don't know how to problem solve to figure out, whatever the objective is, and you're relying on AI, but perhaps AI doesn't apply in that scenario, or maybe you don't have access, or God forbid there's an internet outage, then what? And
Exactly.
and I think that's going to make some people squirm.
Oh yeah, I agree. So what is the energy for you every day to wake up, to do work well, to change people's lives, to take care of your own soul? What is that for you every day?
There's probably three key elements to this. One is there is a self-driven, obviously, these are my businesses, my places, it's my passion. So there's an element where you want to go engage in all of this differently than if it's someone else's or maybe someone's guiding your objective. So obviously the kind of the self-ish piece of that is when it's yours, it's easy, it's fun. I think there is a greater good element inside of there because ultimately, at the end of the day, my role is not to run someone else's business for them. Can, willing, but oftentimes they don't give me the equity stake to have the same ownership. But we can stand shoulder to shoulder and utilize all of the different areas of expertise that we have available to us. I represent hundreds and thousands, not hundred thousands, but of businesses along the way. So I might see 20 different business acquisitions and exits in a given year, whereas most people are going to see that maybe once or twice in their life. So kind of utilizing this knowledge base to help everybody elevate, there's an altruistic element there. So those are kind of the two drivers. And then I come back to, what are the easy things? What are the things that get you out of bed in the morning? And by all means, don't hear me wrong. There are some days where it's like, you know what? I want to call in sick. I'm just going to call the boss and let him know I can't make it. But I'm the guy, so I don't get that option some days. But in every instance of engaging with people, just like you and I are today, there's something that comes out of it that makes me think of things in a slightly different way. That could be a burden to some because I have to turn my mind on, or I'm, draining my battery, expending energy on something new. I see it differently because I plan on continuing to do this for a while. So it becomes yet another tool that's available for whatever the next step is. And I'm a believer that, luck is really a recipe between preparedness and opportunity. It's not really luck. So anything I can do to kind of be in that lane that we know we're good at, generally I want to lean into and try to embrace because at the end of the day, it's about what's the next step? How are we going to get back up? It's the practice of, not the perfection of any practice. So that's kind of the way I've tried to embrace it.
So the other thing that can change our lives that can make a profound impact is random acts of kindness. What's one of the nicest things that anybody's ever done for you?
A little bit of bittersweet on this one, but there was a coach of mine that was just influential. I spent literally year round with him with the different athletic events and summer training. So for probably 4 years, maybe 5 years of my life, I was with this man 24/7. Great role model, great character. But to fast forward to answer the question, when my father passed, he was the person that I called. I needed some, mom and my brother said, "Hey, is there anybody?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to call this guy." And I mean, I disrupted his whole life that day. He had no idea what was going on, but he dropped it, stopped, and showed up. And he didn't have to. He had a family, he had young kids, he was doing everything, but he showed up. And to this day, I'm grateful that he was kind enough to be there and be part of that, especially just being blindsided on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you ready to go out and change the world, and you walked up to that version of you and there was a film projector and you hit play and it was a 60-second highlight reel of this life that you've orchestrated, would that young version of you believe that this life has happened this way?
absolutely not. I think there would be elements of it, like soccer coaching, for example. I mean, I played soccer all my life, still coaching. Like there's elements of that where you go, oh yeah, well that makes sense. But there's other elements with some of the partnerships we've forged with software vendors or friends, or there's this nationwide network of guys like you that I've met over the years. There's no reason we would otherwise probably come across a path but for something like this. And when you keep those relationships alive, especially rewind to the 18-year-old version of me, there was probably a long distance plan in place, and that was kind of financially obstructive to have those kinds of relationships unless they were inside your family. So looking at it through this technology lens of, wow, how do we pull this off? There's people all over the world
Yeah.
that are a simple, easy reach out. No chance. No chance I'd have
Yeah.
believed any of
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
I know. It's amazing. So at the end of the day, of everything that you've done, accomplished, overcome, evolved to, what are you the proudest of? What are you the happiest about?
So there is a mantra that says, don't do business with family. And there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't. And I recognize and actually share those with clients from time to time. But our family has kind of built this family business model. The structure that I'm in is family business. I'm literally next door to where dad founded and operated his businesses. Mom office shares in the same space as kind of her retirement gig, counseling with us. So although it's not a true, partner in the law firm doing business with me, we have found a way inside of whatever unique constraints that we have to elevate everybody and stay connected in different ways that defy those odds. And it's nice. I mean, it's sometimes not as nice. We all have those moments, but usually the ones you love the most, you get the most frustrated with too. So being able to embrace that and do that differently, despite kind of this statistical norm that's out there, is something that you try to wear a badge of honor for. I'm not sure people actually understand what I'm saying sometimes there, and there's not enough time in the day to get it out. But being able to have that and have all different elements of family integrated into that's really, really kind of nice.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that listens to your podcast, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, so I'm answering this as my perception of myself, not what others think, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the way I try to look at it is I am coach on the sidelines. I cannot go out and score the goal for you. I cannot stop the defender, but I can draw up the script. I can do it for myself when I'm on the field and it's my team. I can go score the goals or I can stop the goals or be, whatever role I need to be in my businesses. But the vast majority of the time, that's not my role. And I'm kind of teasing. Sometimes business owners think they are delegating all of those responsibilities as a CPA firm. Well, why aren't you dealing with all things financial? Do I have signature authority? Did I spend the money on those bad decisions? Did I take the distribution to go to Mexico? I sure didn't. So what do you mean all? Because A, I don't have equity, and B, I think you're misconstruing what's going on. As coach, I can't do all of those things. You do. And sometimes that's tensions and you, I don't know, deal with the frustrations that come with that. Other times is a good healthy boundary in the sense of, oh, you're right. It's more of kind of set mission, vision, value, and adjust tactics as things change than it is I'm in the day to day executing step by step. So
So as a speaker, what's the greatest speech you've witnessed in person?
The greatest speech, I don't know if it's going to rank up there as, one of these life-changing moments for the world. But we had a law school professor, and each incoming class he would share some things with, and then each outgoing class he kind of gave a motivational sermon, is the way I will say it too. He was a religious man, so not going to be an issue in the sense of violating his thought process here, but he called it a servant leader's speech. And he was talking about doctors, lawyers, engineers, accountants, clergy members, whoever it may be, typically licensed people, are given a sense of trust from society. There is no flipping that switch off. Once a lawyer, always a lawyer. Doesn't matter that you're 8 to 5. And his point was because you have this elevated position in society, it is your job and your job alone to impact society in a positive way with it.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me.
Yeah, that's amazing. So if anyone wants to hire you, reach out, catch you speak, get your podcast, all the good work you're doing, where's the best place to go?
All the things. Yeah. So I'm going to point people at two different spots. You can find me on LinkedIn, search for my name, Chris Papin, Papin, or go to papinspeaks.com. Those are going to be the ones that have kind of the most. Certainly, there's CPA firm and law firm, Papin Law, Papin CPA, easy enough with my name. But those two hubs, we generally try to push all the fun info out. I have the podcast called BLABO, which stands for Behave Like a Business Owner, on Spotify and Apple. It's really designed to kind of be real. Sometimes what you see on social or what you see in advertising materials is, oh, I can get you $1 million by the end of the month. And well, guess what? Sometimes they can, and sometimes you spend $8,000 on advertising and get no new clients. And that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
So those are the types of conversations we want people to hear because it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right. Yep. Yep. Totally. Well, I will put all these links in the show notes. Christopher, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Send my love to Oklahoma City.
You got it, Joe. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to your audience and share the story. I deeply appreciate it.
Yes, sir. It's been an honor.